Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the final live webinar of World Autoimmune Arthritis Day 2015, Gadgets, Gizmos, and Other Strategies to Make Daily Life with Autoimmune Arthritis Less Painful. I'm Carrie Wong, and I am a representative with the International Foundation for Autoimmune Arthritis. And this is the one presentation I'm really looking forward to. This webinar is being recorded, so if you miss anything or just want to share it with someone else, it will be available on the WAD website Detours page tomorrow. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can enter them in the chat box to your right. We'll do our best to get to all of your questions at the end. With me today is Cheryl Crow. No, not that Cheryl Crow. This is one who may be very helpful for all of us. We all know that when we're in pain, even the most basic daily activities can be difficult. Cheryl Crow is a pediatric occupational therapist, mother, and swing dancer who has lived with rheumatoid arthritis for over a decade. She is an active arthritis advocate and volunteer and has organized educational content for the National Juvenile Arthritis Conference, as well as the Catfish Camp for Kids with Arthritis in the Seattle, Washington area. She has shared her story through presentations at local National Arthritis Foundation events and has also presented her research on the role of social media groups for persons with rheumatoid arthritis at the American College of Rheumatology Conference, as well as the local, national, and world occupational therapy conferences. She blogs about her tips and tricks for living a full life with arthritis at her blog, The Enthusiastic Life. Today, Cheryl is here to share her personal and professional tips from 12 years of experience as a patient with rheumatoid arthritis and from her professional training in daily living modifications as an occupational therapist. She's going to take us through a day in the life and cover gadgets, strategies, and things that can help us with sleep, bathing, dressing, cooking, getting around, household chores, getting into and out of the car, caring for children and pets, workplace strategies, and more. So Cheryl, let's jump right into this. I think many of us can agree that we can get much more helpful tips and ideas from fellow patients rather than from health professionals who haven't really lived it. But since you fall into both categories, we're really eager to hear what you have to say. So take it away, Cheryl.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm going to draw most of my advice is really from my own experience. So I'm really curious what other questions people have at the end, because I might not have covered something that's part of like your daily life, because I'm really going from mine. But that being said, I'm trying to cover things that are kind of relevant to everyone. So I'm starting the day in the life with, we're going to start kind of with waking up. Well, this is at least what I do, going to the bathroom and taking a shower. How do we do that without a lot of pain? Then getting dressed, getting yourself groomed, taking meds, cooking and things around the kitchen, just general getting around, household chores, caring for children, pets, and others, and then all the way down to intimacy at the bottom. And then we're also going to talk about troubleshooting, because these ideas sound so obvious when we talk about them out of context, but in the real world it's hard to remember to do them. And then just basic principles. If you don't remember anything else, there's some basic principles to remember to protect your joints. So there's two main approaches you can try to protecting your joints and minimizing pain during the day. One is change the stuff you're using. So add something or substitute something for something else. So for example, using an electronic can opener versus a hand-operated one. That's a simple example of change the stuff. And the second thing you can do is change the way you use stuff. I'm trying to kind of make this the most basic possible. You can use the same item, but use it a different way. For example, you can have the same purse, but holding it near your elbow versus holding it with your fingertips. That's going to actually cause a lot less pain in your fingers. So that's a quick example of changing the way you use stuff. So for each of these topics, I'm going to cover how you can change the stuff by using a different item. That's where the gadgets and gizmos come in, but also how you can change the way you use it. So with that in mind, so we're going to start with bathing and toileting. So you may not know there's lots of really fun gadgets and things to help you, get yourself clean without maybe hurting yourself even more. Now, most of us with autoimmune arthritis, I mean, if you're like me, at least with rheumatoid arthritis, more pain and stiffness in the morning. So heat itself can help loosen your joints up a bit. But one thing to think about is just the setup of your bathroom, and think about like of whether you want a shower or a bathtub. This is more for when you're looking at houses, I guess, or apartments. But a lot of people find that a walk-in shower is a lot easier than a bathtub, because a bathtub you have to step over it. So if you're having knee pain, a bathtub is not always the best. But that being said, it can feel really good to soak in the tub. So I guess in the ideal world, like in our house, we have a tub as well as a walk-in shower. So it's kind of nice if you have both those options. Also, you may not have ever seen these little, everything here that's underlined in blue, by the way, is a hyperlink. So when you go to the website and you can get a copy of this presentation, you can click on it and you can see where you can buy some of these products. Now, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I just know where you can buy this stuff, and I think it's useful. So you can also, for washing your hair, you can find one of these long-handled hair washers. So that, especially if you have shoulder pain, instead of having to kind of lift your shoulder up with all these weird, awkward angles to wash your hair, you could actually keep your shoulder in its place and move your hand around like this and be able to wash your hair that way. And also your back, that's one that's really good for me, because I don't have complete full range of motion in both my shoulders, so I can't always reach the weird places in my back. So I actually don't have one of these. That's one of those real world things. It's like sometimes you're too lazy to remember to get one, but I need to get one. This is what's reminding me. Also, I always get shampoo and conditioner bottles with a pump rather than squeezing, because squeezing really hurts my finger joints. So that's something to consider. And you can always install grab bars in your shower to make it easier to get in and out, and also for safety. And you can put a shower chair in your walk-in shower to give yourself a little break. So you can sit down to shower instead of having to stand up. For toileting, you can get a raised seat to make it easier to go from standing to sitting and back. And there's also wiping aids that help you wipe without, again, having to get into all these awkward angles with your shoulder or with the bending and twisting if you have back pain. So these are just, all gadgets that you can look up online. It's just, I kind of combed through them and picked out the ones that I thought were the most helpful. The second way you can make this easier for you and protect your joints is just changing your approach. So you can reorganize things so that items that you use the most often, soap, shampoo, conditioner, razor, put them in the easiest location that requires the least amount of bending and reaching. So put them all kind of at whatever, if it's arm's length away, or whatever requires you to do the least amount of movement. You also, I replace, like if I buy a giant thing of shampoo or conditioner at Costco, I then pour it into a smaller container so I don't have to lift such a large container. Also think about the time of day, like I mentioned, maybe showering and bathing in the morning might feel better for you with the heat, but depending on what's the cause of your autoimmune arthritis, or if you're in acute inflammation stage, sometimes heat is not recommended, so maybe wait until the end of the day, or maybe do more of a lukewarm shower. And then if you're really having a hard time, you can also consider no rinse bathing wipes, which I have a link to here, and that will allow you to clean yourself without having to necessarily get into and out of a shower or bath. So that's bathing and toileting, short version. Now for dressing, grooming, and medications, again, this whole idea of the long-handled devices is really key for helping protect those tender shoulder joints. So you can get a comb or a brush where you can hold it right in front of you. You don't need to move your shoulder up and down. There's some really fun special nail clippers that don't require, for me, I have some CMC, or it's base of the thumb joint pain and inflammation. That's why I have these splints. Sorry, I can't see myself on the webcam, but I think you can see my splints. So this one's for the wrist and the thumb. This one's just for the thumb. But so that pinching is really hard for me. So the special nail clippers where you can just put your finger in and then push down on the thing that, anyway, you can look them up, but they make it so you don't have to use that pinching motion. You can just press down like a gross movement. For dressing, there's really fun things called button hooks, which I've used before, that help you reach through and get a button in without having, you just hold the button hook. You don't have to manipulate your fingers and do a lot of pulling and tugging on them. There's also a zipper pull, which you put on the end of your zipper. It's a little ring. You can just hook your finger through, and lift up rather than having to pinch with your fingers. Again, we're trying to protect those tender, smaller joints of your fingers and thumbs. The sock aid, which we have a picture of down here, that helps you prevent excessive bending, which helps protect your back and it helps you put your sock on. And the dressing stick can also help you put your feet through the clothing and your arms as well. These are all hyperlinks. A shoehorn helps you put your shoes on without bending too much. And then these are really fun. The perfect opener and the pillows and medication helpers. The perfect opener actually is in the shape of a cat. That's why it's called perfect opener. And you can put it on top of any bottle, whether it's a pill, medication bottle, or a water bottle, and it helps you open it. And there's all sorts of things like that I would recommend. Just look them up. Pill helpers, so you don't have to stress out your hands too much. Some workarounds to dressing, grooming. You're just choosing clothing that's easy to put on or take off and has less buttons. That's an easy way to go. Or snaps. My shirt right now has snaps rather than buttons. Just general. This is common sense. Avoiding motions that require a lot of stress or strain on your joints. So if I choose clothing that doesn't make me have to sit there and really pull at it, and shoes as well. And then I like to put medications in an easy open and weekly organizer, so that way each day you're not having to do that opening motion with your hands. So those are some workarounds. Cooking in kitchen. This is a big one. So I have one right here. Again, I can't see myself, but I love this handle knife again, you're not having, with a normal knife, you're having to stress your knuckle joints on your finger a lot when you use them. Whereas the handle knife, you just grip it, and then you're using the big muscles of like your back and back of the shoulder and your full arm movements to achieve the cutting, as opposed to having to use those tiny muscles in your hand. And every time you have to use those tiny muscles and hand movements, that's putting more stress on your hand joints. So this gross grip on your handle for the handle knife is really, really handy. Handy knife. Handle knife. And there's also a rocker knife that also requires less strength for your thumb on your knuckles, and you just hold onto it like this. Oh, sorry, I'm showing it, but you hold it similar to the picture here, but it's rotated a little bit, and then you rock back and forth, and that's good for cutting lots of little things like cutting up your spices and stuff. We really recommend wide grip utensils. So again, you're distributing the force across the joints more when you're using a wider grip, and you're requiring less of that pinching. There's also a really fun, easy peeler that you kind of hook your hand through, and then you slide your hand down like if you're peeling a potato. So you are using, again, the whole arm movements rather than isolated hand movements. That's what you want to go for if you're trying to protect your small joints. So a lot of these pieces of advice are for specifically people who are having the most pain in what we call the distal joints, which are the ones furthest from the core of your body. So it can be fingertips, knuckles, thumbs. That said, if you are having a lot of shoulder pain but no finger and hand pain, you might actually not want these because these are requiring more big movements in your shoulder. So keep that in mind. There's special cutting boards I've linked to here that they stabilize the item that you're cutting so that you then don't have to use two hands, one to hold the item and one to cut. This is good if one of your hands is really, really inflamed, then you can just avoid having to use that one. So I really like those. Also, as I mentioned earlier, using an electric can opener is so easy, simple, worth the money that you don't have to worry about finagling with the little handheld opener. And there's also opening aids. Sorry I don't have a picture of them, but you can, again, click on the link. And they are things that go on top of, like the perfect opener that I mentioned before, they go on top of any item that you want to open and twist, like the top of a Gatorade bottle or the top of a can of olives. You can open easier because it allows you to grip around it and not have to place a strain on your hand joints. Another big one for me, because I do a lot of, I do a big batch of cooking and then I put things in the freezer for later, is using storage containers that are easy to open and close. So I love these new Ziploc ones that came out. They're one touch. You touch it once in the middle, and then you can even, I'm touching with my finger there. Actually, you could literally just touch it with like your fists or even your elbow, so you avoid your finger joints. As opposed to like these ones I got at Costco that are like there's 4 things. You have to sit there and squeeze all 4 corners. So that's 4 motions. Each one is hard. That's load on your joints, not just to squeeze them, but also to undo it. So you want to, again, all these daily activities, they add up. So if you can do 1 action versus 4, and you're doing them 3 times a day, that adds up. So I really recommend that. For changing your approach instead of like buying a new gadget, I love purchasing pre-cut items. I have a picture of them, but I'll just show the people who are on the web. These pre-cut items. So these are actually there's Lighthouse freeze-dried onion, garlic, and basil. That way you do not have to worry about cutting garlic and onion. And they actually taste really good because they're freeze-dried. So they're different than the ones that are just kind of dry, like regular dried onion. And so I don't know exactly how they do it, but it tastes a lot better. So then you're getting around cutting all together. Also, just making everything as lightweight as possible. So when you get your initial plates, bowls, cutlery, think about getting them lighter. Or just honestly, we replaced all of our cutlery this year when I was having more pain after having a baby, because we were like, this is ridiculous. This is heavy and it's stressing my joints, and we're using it all throughout the day. So just purchase, and lighter ones are usually cheaper anyway. And then, like I said, with the shampoo, pouring heavy stuff into smaller containers, like olive oil, you might want to save money by getting a giant thing of it, but then pour it into a smaller container so that you don't have to be constantly lifting something heavy. Another great workaround, I'm in the Seattle area, you can use Amazon Fresh, which is home grocery delivery. We've also used home delivery through Safeway. A lot of places now do it for pretty cheap if you're flexible on your window of delivery, so that's super, super helpful. And just asking for help. I'm really fortunate that my husband is around to help. If you have anyone else that you can ask or lean on, some of the stuff is just heavy and hard to, there's going to be a certain point where you just can't do it any other way, so you might just have to ask for help. And then organizing your kitchen so that frequently used items are easy to obtain, again, to avoid that excessive bending, lifting, and twisting. So I like to keep some stuff just on the countertop or at arm level rather than having to constantly bend down. So getting around, another word for this is functional mobility. So I'm really into comfortable shoes first and foremost to protect my feet. Dansko is my absolute favorite brand, and I talked to a podiatrist about this once, and I was like, why am I in so much less pain when I wear Danskos? And he said that they're the ones that are usually clogs. There's something about they accelerate the step phase of walking, and they make it so you're on the ball of your feet for a shorter amount of time, plus they're really thick and they distribute force across a wide area. So you can get these, they're expensive, like $100 for each pair of shoes usually, but you can get them used. Like I've gotten them at, Value Village and stuff like that, or Goodwill. So try around what works for you, but it might be worth an investment into some nice supportive shoes. There's a whole bunch of fun car items that you can do to make your life easier. There's an easy reach seatbelt handle that I linked to here that allows you to not have to, again, twist and get in these awkward positions. There's a swivel cushion, so if you're in back pain, you don't have to keep twisting. You can sit in the same, you can get yourself into the car, sit, and then swivel to be facing forward rather than having to twist from the floor. There's a really cool spinner knob for steering wheel. These are used actually for people who have an amputation. They can also be used for people who have a lot of pain in one hand, where you just steer your wheel with just one knob rather than having to use 2 hands. And there's also a key turner where there's a picture of it over here. So again, you can use a big gross motor movement to turn your key rather than having to use your tiny little muscles and joints and putting up stress on them. Things that help you go from sitting to standing, there's a bed rail. So getting out of bed is, again, morning time can be hard. So getting a bed rail so that you can push and up from the bed rail rather than having to use your body to get yourself up. And then, I can't give a lot of advice about, walkers, canes, and other mobility aids, because those are really prescribed by your doctor or physical therapist. So I would go to ask if you're thinking that you're at the state where you need a walker or cane or any other prescribed mobility aid, then I would go ask for a referral for that to be made, since that needs to be really personalized for you. So changing your approach, I know we've all heard this a million times, but you can always consider an exercise program that can strengthen the muscles that help you get around, so like your core and your legs, so that the more musculature you have, the less stress on your joints in general. So that could be something that could really help, and also feels good. Um, well, depending on how much pain you're in, but a lot of times you end up feeling a little bit better after some light exercise, at least for me. Using energy conservation techniques, which really just means taking rest breaks and breaking tasks into smaller parts so that you're not using all your energy at once. Those of you who are, know about the spoon theory, it's kind of like not using all your spoons at once. Also workarounds, again, delegating if you're in pain and using home delivery, not just for shopping, but for groceries. But, I do a lot of Amazon.com shopping because that way I don't have to go out to the store to get things. So it just minimizes that requirement. Household chores. So again, what are these little gadgets and gizmos? Well, first, for cleaning, I really recommend using the lightest weight item you can. So I like the Dyson Animal Vacuum because it's really lightweight, it's small, and so you can you don't have to lug this giant heavy vacuum around. Using long-handled devices in general is really good. It helps to avoid bending. Plus, like you can see on this mop here, instead of your hand having to be on the like a scrub brush and you're putting all this force into your hand while you're pushing around the bathtub, if you use a long-handled device, not only are you minimizing the bending, but you're also putting less force onto your hands and less strain. Laundry, so when we got our washer and dryer, we got it on these, I don't know what they're called, but they're things on the bottom that make it taller so you don't have to bend as much. And then when you're carrying the laundry, get something where you can hook your elbow, if your fingers aren't the ones that are in pain, hook your elbow through the thing that you're carrying the laundry in so that you don't have to hold it with your fingers. Gardening, there's 1,000,001 arthritis-friendly gardening tools. I know that we're talking about autoimmune-caused arthritis, but so some of these are more for osteoarthritis, but at the end of the day, if it is just you're in pain and trying to protect those joints, the same things that work for osteo are going to work most of the time. And then changing your approach for household chores. So again, conserving energy by taking breaks, chunking tasks into smaller parts. This is hard for me because my personality type, I'd rather just put it all off and then do a whole bunch on the weekend or something, but it doesn't really work for my body because it would be much better for my body to do a little bit every day rather than a whole bunch in one day. You also want to distribute the force by using two hands whenever possible and using full arm movements. Rather than isolated finger movements. And again, working around delegate. I mean, of course, if you have the means, hiring help is another workaround because it will definitely save your joints some pain. So, but not everyone has that option. Caring for children and pets. So one thing you might not know about is this thing's called a buckle bopper. So one of the hardest things for me is putting my 25-pound baby or toddler now into and out of the car seat. And so the buckle bopper is something that you hold on to with your whole hand and you push with the force from your generated from your elbow and your shoulder, and you push into it, and it unlocks or undoes the buckle. And so it's really great because you're not having to push with just normally to push with your thumb, and it hurts. And also, when they're little, choosing clothing with less snaps and choosing lightweight strollers and car seats with easy closures. I actually made a whole blog post with a ton of recommendations on this, so you can link to that, or you can click on that link. And then caring for pets, there's really fun hands-free dog leashes, which you could use if you're walking your dog. I know that's something that causes people pain sometimes. So changing your approach, it's really, really important with caring for children and pets because it's really an all-day, everyday thing to follow the principles of good body mechanics, and instead of you're not having good posture, but and joint protection. So again, bending from your knees, using bigger joints whenever possible. So I always wait till my baby is standing up to pick him up, and then I brace him against my whole body, like the picture on the right, using both my hands and using as little bit of force to my fingers as possible, as opposed to the picture on the top, which is the worst technique where everything that's holding him up is in my small joints of my hands, and there's a little bit in the elbow, but I'm, first of all, putting a lot of stress, a lot of his weight are on my thumbs, which is bad. It's so hard not to do that when they're so little, and that's just the natural way you want to pick them up. But try to remember to brace them against your whole body. And then another workaround is streamlining tasks to make less work for yourself. So I always try to combine tricks so that I don't have, so I minimize the amount of time I'm taking my baby in and out of the car. And then, of course, getting help and delegating. For workplace and technology, so you've probably all heard this a million times, but if you're at a desk job, you definitely want to look at your ergonomics. Think about the 90-90-90 rule. So 90-degree angle between your trunk and your thighs, 90-degree angle between your thighs and your knees. And then you want your computer to be, at eye level or a little bit lower. There's also some really fun pens and pencils if you're having to do a lot of writing in your job. And one of them is called Panicking, but there's a million of them out there. You can look it up. One thing I love, I do a lot now, is using touchscreen, or using talk to text on my touchscreen devices. So I use my iPhone a lot at work, but I will use talk to text, so I don't have to sit there and type with my thumbs. Again, the thumbs are hurting for me, so I want to avoid that as much as possible. And there's programs for the computer, not just the phone, like Dragon Naturally Speaking, you can buy if you need to do longer writing assignments. You can also use the assistive touch function on your phone. There's a picture of that in the bottom right here that makes it so you don't have to scroll up and down. You can just do a distinct touch, which is huge because for me, because my knuckles hurt if I do lots of scrolling. If I'm trying to read articles or scroll through Facebook or whatever, over time that hurts. So, but if I do the assistive touch, I just touch it rather than having to swipe. So when I say scroll, I'm really meaning swiping my finger up. That's really helpful. You can also get an e-reader holder, so you're not having to sit there and hold up your e-reader or your iPad or tablet. So in workplace, you can also ask for accommodations. There may be requirement by law to provide you with accommodations from the Americans with Disabilities Act. Make sure to take a movement break, and then I like to use an e-reader rather than books because they are lighter, and you don't have to sit there and turn the pages. Just a couple more. So intimacy, this is a big area that's often overlooked because people feel awkward talking about it, but this is a daily activity for a lot of people, or maybe weekly, and it is something that can cause a lot of strain and pain in your joints. So the first thing is just communication, being open about what you want and need with your partner. And remember that the word intimacy is more than just a physical act. It has to do with the communication and connection as well. So we always recommend, experimenting with positions and actions that cause the least amount of pain. You can use pillows or cushions to support tender joints. And also just plan ahead, maybe use modalities, hot or cold, beforehand to increase your comfort, and time your pain medications so that you maybe can have the least amount of pain while you're doing intimate acts. So these are just a few resources, but there's a bunch more at the end. So just quick troubleshooting, it sounds so obvious when I talk about these things, and why is it so hard to remember to do these things in everyday practice? Because we often have distractions in our daily lives. Like for me, the baby might be crying, so it's hard to remember to pick him up quickly. We might be impatient or busy, we want to just get stuff done rather than taking the time. And also habits, we're used to doing things a certain way before our joints started hurting, and it's hard to change a habit. So the things, if you have all these barriers, or it's really hard to remember all these things I'm talking about, just remember, whenever possible, use bigger joints to lift and carry, not your small ones. And as small everyday actions add up over time. So if you can just make a few little tweaks here and there, it's going to add up. And then carry less at a time, and ask your doctor about splinting and other equipment if you're in pain. I'm pointed here to my picture of my 2 hand splints. These have made a huge, huge, huge difference. They distribute the force when I'm lifting things and turning things. They support my thumb joints, and I had to ask for them. So your doctor won't always know to tell you what you need, unfortunately. So you have to maybe be a little bit more proactive and say, look, I'm doing everything right, and I'm still having some pain. What else can we do here? And do you think some splinting might help? So here's some additional resources. This website where you can purchase some of the stuff I mentioned. Again, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm just doing this, as a volunteer thing. So I'm not making any money off of any of these. So these are really just from what I think are the most helpful. And then the Arthritis Foundation also has an ease of use site that helps you decide on items and read reviews of them. There's a really great intimacy PDF from the Arthritis Society, and then there's self-management strategies. So I think it's time. We started a little bit late, so hopefully it wasn't too bad to go to 12:43. So this is my email address if anyone has any questions. I know we say we have some time for questions now.
Okay, Cheryl, first off, I just have to say thank you so much. That was just incredible.
Okay.
I know I was sitting here just writing down note after note after note of things that I personally found would be helpful and things that I want to look into further. So with that, I want to just make sure I'm letting everybody know. Again, we are recording this webinar, and so it will be posted on our WOD website tomorrow. But what we're also going to do is post these slides from Cheryl because, as she mentioned, each of those pages had links to a lot of those different tools and features, and I think that will also save us some time rather than having to Google the ideas ourselves. We'll be able to find the direct links that she has set up for us, and I am just so floored with how much great information there was, with the things that we can do to both change the stuff and change the approach. I think, one of the things that I think, I know I'm personally still struggling with, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is that, as the autoimmune arthritis disease takes more and more of a hold, we're left feeling so helpless, and we're left, overwhelmed with so many things that we can't do anymore, and we just can't, and the more we feel helpless, the more that can just kind of spiral into a depression and all of those other things. And with just some of these things that are just such simple little tweaks make it really possible to do the things that could have been so difficult before. One thing I know you mentioned, I just wanted to add one thing that popped into my head. I know you mentioned a few different things that can help with opening bottles and containers and things like that. One, just something else that I wanted to throw in there is I know that at some pharmacies, if you ask when you're getting a prescription filled, they can actually give you an easy open cap on the bottles that you're using. Of course, you want to think about, who else is in your area. If you have children that might access those medications, you want to keep those child-proof caps. But if that's not something you need to worry about, a lot of times the pharmacy can actually make it easier for you as well. Okay, so I do see the first question coming in. And so, Cheryl, if you had to pick 5 of the can't live without items for you as a patient, what would they be?
Oh, that's a good. Well, I definitely already have the knife is a big one because, as much as I like to delegate that stuff, it does. The kitchen stuff often falls to me. So I would say, and cutting is just a lot of force, especially depending on what you're cutting. So I would say cutting, something to help with cutting, something to help with opening. I actually have something called Gizmos, which is it doesn't help as much as the things that I linked to, but it does help provide a little bit of additional support because it provides it grips onto the tops of things to open. So I have a can opener, which I use all the time, but the opener items that I mentioned, or even just Dyson, they can help with a variety of kinds of things, whether it's a thing of sneaking olives or a sports drink. So an opener. Let's see. I think it's really going to depend on what daily activities are causing the most pain. I mean, also my splints are probably number one because they protect my hands. And I have these. These are thermoplastic, custom made, molded to my particular hand and wrist. But you can also get ones off the counter or whatever it's called, off the rack, and it's called Comfort Cool, which I also have. Those are neoprene. They're more just they can fit anyone. They just have a small, medium, large, and those provide a little bit of thumb support and also just that pressure onto your wrist and your thumb that can feel really good. So I love the Comfort Cool, but also it's a splint, knife, an opener, a jar opener, key turner, because for me I'm using keys all the time, and again for me a thumb is a main inflamed area, so anything to protect my thumb. But it's really a matrix of how often are you performing the activity, how much pain is it causing you, because you may perform an activity only twice a day, like for example putting my son in and out of the car seat, but it's a lot. It can be really hard on your joints. And then I guess 5 for me would be the comfortable shoes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so the next question we have coming in is a really, really great question. So thank you to whoever it was that posted this. So Cheryl, we want to know, how easy is it to get insurance to cover any of these gadgets? Or is it always an over-the-counter, cash only, you just have to buy it on your own?
I can say for sure that the splints will be should be covered as long as they can document a medical need for them. I got my custom splints and the Comfort Cools actually, even though they sell the Comfort Cools neoprene splints over the counter, I got them through the hand therapist because they just need to be able to specify you have a medical need for it. But again, it's hard to answer that because each person's insurance is different. Unfortunately, I think the majority of these, even though insurance should cover them because they're preventative, so if I use this every day and it prevents further joint damage, then they're actually benefiting the insurance benefits because I'm then having less pain, I'm getting less medicine, I'm having less likelihood of a joint replacement surgery or something really costly. But as I understand it right now, a lot of these things are not covered. But I can look more into that because that's a really big question. I work in a setting with a different population, so I don't actually work with the revenue stream or whatever you call it, the insurance stream for these devices. So I'm not sure. But I think it's unfortunately not very good coverage except for the customized items like a splint.
Okay. And one other thing actually that can be helpful for some of these items, and again, it's, kind of each individual plan might have things a little bit differently, but for some of these things that are not covered by insurance, they might be eligible under, if you have a full flex program with your employer, where they will reimburse for uninsurable medical related expenses. So a lot of things, they usually are very specific and will give you an exact list of what they will and will not cover. Some things you may need to get a note from the doctor that says you need this, and then it becomes an eligible flex spending purchase. And so again, you do still have to pay for it, but you do end up saving some money on it. So it is another way to, get a little bit of, a savings in there if you can't get it covered by insurance.
That's a great point.
Okay, I've got another point coming in, another suggestion, that if you can actually put a large multi-gallon water container in your refrigerator, it's easier to get water. Oh, I used to do that. Like, I used to get the 2.5-gallon Poland Spring jugs that have the little spout on them. Mm-hmm. And so this way it's got the spout. You don't have to lift it to pour all the time. It's just, sitting there, and it's easier than having to go to another bottle, having to pour. So that is another really great tip, a great point. Okay, and then I have somebody just mentioned regarding those easy open containers from the pharmacy. We have one person who said that those easy open containers cause me to spill my medications regularly, so just be careful. So again, as with anything, you do want to be careful with what is, around and where you're doing things, especially the first couple of times as you're getting used to a different type of opening or device or anything like that. Okay, I see another question coming in. For pets, using a table to assist in grooming so you don't, it's another tip. For pets, using a table to assist in grooming so you don't have to bend over and use a Dremel to grind nails versus a nail clipper really helps also.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, great. So what's, I'm so floored with how much great information we were able to get here. So I want to, give one more call out for, kind of a last chance if anybody has other questions, other suggestions you want to throw in here as well while we're getting those in.
One thing is that there's a lot of specific kitchen items I didn't, cover because I was just seeing the biggest ones, but different kinds of mugs. So, for example, ones where you can use, there's handles on both sides, so you can use 2 hands. Again, distributes the force across more joints, so you're having less pain in just one hand. So there's a lot. Just you can poke around these websites and find lots and lots of items, or you can even figure out ways to adapt what you currently have. And personally, I like water bottles with a handle. So I think it's easier than having to pick up a water bottle with one hand. That causes more stress on my thumb, whereas when I pull onto a handle, it's not as much stress on my thumb joints. So that's one thing to think about. It's hard to find water bottles with a handle. So
I'm trying to remember now the brand of it. I had gotten, it was actually designed for runners, but it was a water bottle that had a sort of like a zipper pouch attached to it.
Oh, with the camelback?
Yeah, it might be something like that. And so this way, it was designed so that your hand kind of went between the bottle and the pouch that was around it. And so this way, you have your keys or ID or whatever in that pouch while you're holding the bottle, but it's also kind of holding the bottle in your hand because it's sort of strapped on with the bag. And so this way, your hand isn't really holding it so much. And so, I mean, it's designed for runners, but I think that's also something that could be helpful for us in the same way.
Cool.
Okay, I've got another question coming in. Do they have bigger handled toothbrushes? Is there something, I know you talked about?
Oh, yeah. Yes, there are wide handled toothbrushes. And also some people do find, I was researching that, and I have like a Sonicare. And some people find that the electronic toothbrushes are great because you don't have to then move your hand back and forth to brush. Actually, if you use the Sonicare, the electronic toothbrush correctly, you're just supposed to hover around the gum. So you just go around your mouth on each of the gums, and then the chewing surface, and then the inside of the gums. So you're not having to kind of go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. But they do have wide grips. Another thing, I should have mentioned this, is that you can always put, you can wrap something around your current toothbrush, right? You can even get there's special you can get foam stuff to wrap around it, or you can literally just wrap a few socks or something around it to make it a wide grip item. So you can change a normal, a thin item like a regular toothbrush into a wide grip just by adding something to it. I mean, there's something called therapy putty, which I've used before, which you can put around like a pencil. You can also put it on a toothbrush.
Well, that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
You could probably do that with, a number of things that just to kind of modify what you have. That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm writing these notes down.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm writing these notes down because you guys have great questions.
And you just really brought so much incredible information. And so if we don't have any other questions, I do want to once again thank you, Cheryl. This has been such an amazingly, incredibly informative and helpful, really tangible, helpful presentation. And I think that we've all got so much to take away from it, and we'll be looking forward to getting all that information up on our website again. So one more time, thank you, Cheryl, for bringing all of this great information to us. Thank you, everyone here, for taking the time and coming to spend a little time with us here at World Autoimmune Arthritis Day. We've still got plenty of stuff going on our website and through the other Facebook and Twitter pages that you can check out. And remember, you can come back to the Detours page tomorrow. We will have both the video of this conversation, this webinar, as well as the link to the slides with the links for all of those different incredible tools that we can look into. So, Cheryl, do you have any final words that you'd like to leave everyone with?
And only just, any small changes you can make, again, even just one of those changing how you approach items rather than having to buy something new, that can make a big difference. So I know it's very overwhelming to think of all the things you could be doing differently, but maybe just choose one thing this week and then do one thing differently. And then, lift something with two hands rather than one hand, or use my elbow rather than my fingers. And, take baby steps. So, and then email me if you have any good ideas, or you tried something and it really worked great, or it didn't work well, or you have any better ideas. Let me know. I'd love to learn more.
Okay, excellent. Thank you again so much for all of these little tools that will not only help us to reduce the pain and enable us to do more things, but I think that it also kind of helps us to feel a little bit closer to normal, a little less helpless when we're able to, make a little tweak and be able to do things for ourselves. It'll take away some of that frustration and the emotion and all of the feeling that goes along with the physical things. And so this is just going to be, I really am just so, so happy that we had this going. So again, thank you one more time to everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, rest of World Autoimmune Arthritis Day, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks.
Thank you for all your work, Carrie.